Oh my goodness. What a difference a day can make. Yesterday, of course, here on PICARDEST, we talked about, let me get rid of that. We talked about episode 3 of Picard season 3. And now we're at episode 4 because that just aired last night. And it's Starbase 80, PICARDEST. Yeah, I'm just so proud of that. So proud of that because season 2 is Picarder. Well, season 1 was Picard. All right. Well, kill a joke, John. Just did. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host, a wonderful novelist, a terrific storyteller, and a great co-host. Great guy to spend time with. I believe you know Mr. Joe Townsend.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Captain John.
Hello, Joe. So we watched last night's episode of Picard season 3, and that episode is called No Win Scenario. You were ready. You were going to do it.
Ready.
I know you were ready to do it. Banged my mic too. It in many ways to me felt like a part 2 of episode 3. Not only did it sort of ramp up the action and the mysteries of episode 3, it answered a bunch of it, and it had no B story. Did you notice that? No.
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you what it reminded me of, actually, back in Next Generation. There was a 2-parter named Birthright, which part 1 had the B story, part 2 did not.
Oh, no kidding.
It was the one where Worf went to the planet where the Romulans had held a group of Klingons for a generation.
Mm-hmm.
In part 1, we had Bashir commandeering the Enterprise sickbay.
Yeah.
With Data assisting him later. But that got resolved in part 1. Then after that, part 2 was just Worf in the little penal colony.
You know, that's funny because we had discussed a little bit in yesterday's show. So part 3, we had discussed the parallels that we felt were there between this and the legendary Star Trek motion picture, the second one, Wrath of Kahn. And it's funny because that was one of my notes, and I'm doubling down. I think it's even more true in this one that this is Wrath of Kahn if everything went wrong. If there were no advantages, no shortcuts, no like, oh, thank goodness Sulu lets us use the Excelsior. Like, none of that. Everything is hard won. Every stake is as high as it can be. Every sacrifice that is being asked of you is the worst thing that could be asked of you as one of the characters in this storyline. Am I nuts, or do you think I got something here?
Oh, no, you're definitely not nuts, John. I mean, and you definitely have something. I mean, we'll get to the beats momentarily, but you pretty much just covered the first few right there. I mean, the first 10 minutes of this episode are just hopeless. Despite what Jean-Luc tells his cadet admirers in the flashback at the beginning. I mean, come on, this is the end, old friend. Let me send a last message to my wifey. I mean,
see, now when that scene was in the preview for this season, for season 3, I just thought that was theoretical. I was like, well, this is the end eventually. But it's not.
or just, been nice working with you again, sayonara type of this is the end. The end of this reunion.
As opposed to what I didn't realize until this episode, which is we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the stakes couldn't be higher, and that is good storytelling, is it not, Mr.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were left with a huge cliffhanger last week. I absolutely concur with you that this is pretty much a 2-part episode within the 10-part serialized overall story, and only because the events just tie from one to the next.
Yeah.
And especially with the Worf and Rafi taking a week off and not meeting our other old crewmates yet. Yeah, this was definitely a high stakes episode, and didn't let up until way closer to the end.
Just devastating. And almost by the time we get to the end, almost everything, many significant things that I thought I knew about this third season turn out not to be true.
Turned out
It's
to be
wild.
true. There's not as I said last night, there's tiny mystery boxes that are resolved fairly quickly, not a mystery building, or as it were.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, again, kind of jumping to the end
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
the only it felt tacked on because I said everything was kind of wrapped up with a bow so neatly. So well, we better remind everybody there's still a little bit going on here as far as what's happening with Jack.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, folks, we got to break down the plot for you, and we do that in a little segment that we like to call We Got the Beats. So, Mr. Townsend, Storyteller Supreme, would you please give to the folks the beats?
I sure will. I mean, I just need to get the image of Belinda Carlisle out of my mind real quick. Okay, now I'm good. Now I'm good. Well, as we mentioned, I mean, we start off with a flashback, and we'll get to the analysis, of course, after the beats. But I gotta admit, this episode tried my patience a couple times, but the patience was rewarded, and that says a lot.
Yes, I think I know what you mean. I think I agree.
Because I said, "Oh, flashbacks again! Yay!" I mean, this was to the point of absurdity in season 2, and
yeah,
I said, "Okay, well, it was very effective last week. As it turns out, it'll be very effective this week as well." But when it first started, I said, "Okay, we'll see where this goes." But it was one thing that was nice about it is that we did see some reverence for the old admiral.
yes,
You didn't have people, basically like shot at the beginning of this season, says, "Go away, you bother me, old man." And of course,
yeah,
the other
yeah,
cranky admiral in season 1 had a
yes,
big issue with him. So it was good
yeah,
that he's revered in his
yeah,
own time.
yeah,
And there were some good tales to tell there. More to come on that in the tidbits section of our show.
yeah.
But they say, okay, gonna get a little, and as it turns out, it definitely served a purpose right away, this flashback, because it basically dived deep into the concept of, with your valued family and team and crew with you,
Yeah.
you are never without hope. And then
Right.
we segue straight back to the present day where it's totally hopeless, seemingly.
The entire crew, from the top down, completely without hope.
Yeah. So I said, all right, well, I think that in itself was a good thing to have at the beginning, just so
Oh yeah,
it wasn't so relentlessly brutal of
yeah,
what was to
yeah.
follow in the next several minutes.
Right.
So yes,
And
things are
a
hopeless. We're
little
falling
bit
into
of
the pit.
yeah, a little bit of normal, a little bit of,
Yeah.
this is how it's supposed to be. And it's there, and you get to see it and hear it and be there for it. And yeah, I agree. It's nice to have that. And the juxtaposition is like, and now they're plummeting to their deaths. Pretty slowly, relatively speaking, too.
Pretty slowly, and which of course builds the suspense quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Riker, he's kind of about, I'm glad they resolved the little conflict there, which kind of rang a little false to me last time.
Yeah.
As far as get off my bridge, John Luke, And
Right.
Riker admitting this, you know what? There is, you were right. I see the infinite black of space, and it just reminds me of the infinite darkness of my son's grave. That hit home hard.
That was hard.
I mean, and this is a recent hurt for him and Deanna. It's only been a couple years for
Yeah.
a son that age, especially.
Yeah.
So lots of, the characterization, and this was largely a story of characterization. If there was a B story, it was basically just diving into the characters, along with all the chaos of plummeting into the gravity well.
To the point where I would say that this part of it, for the most part, there's some
Mhm.
nice special effects sequences and things
Mhm.
like that, which of course are wonderful. We love those. But it is so talky. It is so emotionally heavy and laden. It reminds me of stage acting,
Really?
of what you do in a play, because a
Mhm.
play is mostly about revelations,
Mhm.
and the actions do follow in a chain, but people spend a lot of time telling stories in plays. It's a very unique. I never realized that till having
Yeah.
done a bunch of them in a row.
Sure.
Um, and how amazing is it that Frakes, who I always thought of as a scene one, scene two, scene three,
Mhm.
like just a sequential television director. Oh my God, he did so much beautiful work. But again, that's more for the analysis, less for the beat. So let me back out. But just to back you up on the fact that this is a thought heavy,
Mhm.
confession heavy episode, and it is wonderful. I normally would be like, oh, the talky episodes, bleh. But it's wonderful. I love this episode.
Well, as do I, and we knew going in it was gonna be a great one, and again, touching a bit on what we'll get to in more depth in the analysis. This is something that Picard season 2 didn't do as well.
Right? Agreed.
If it wasn't for the characters, the evolution of the characters, the writing, the dialogue, all of that,
Yeah.
we would have written this off as a filler for sure.
Yeah.
Because as far as plot advancement, not as much as we've seen thus far.
Not really. Yeah. I
Basically,
mean,
getting out of the mess they're in. That was the plot this week.
yes, exactly. What's the
Yeah.
mystery? The mystery is, how do we get out of the situation that was
Mhm.
established in the previous episode? Does not sound
Exactly.
like a good episode. But again,
No, if we read
I
that in
love it.
TV Guide, we go, I don't know about that. Does TV Guide still exist? I guess it does.
Oh my gosh, it must, but I don't know. Do you remember when every Sunday paper had their own TV guide, their
Oh,
own version of
sure.
a TV guide in it? And I remember my parents
Mhm.
finally they started getting TV guide. They resisted forever. And now I had the two. And I'm such a dork that I'm like, well, this was their description of $6 million man. What's their description? Oh, it's much briefer. I wonder why. Like, anyway.
But you knew a show was important when you had that thing in the corner that said close up.
Man from Atlantis got the close up. Maybe
See?
people like science fiction after all. That would still take 30 years for that to happen, but it was true.
It was. It was.
So where do we leave on the let's
Well,
see.
basically, we're just kind of feeling sad along with the rest of the crew. I mean, they're kind of wandering around in a dazed state.
Right,
And
right.
meanwhile, interestingly, we have Dr. Crusher counting down. I said,
So
that's
great.
interesting.
So great.
And of course, that will turn out to be a much important plot point very
Oh my
soon.
God. So amazing. But yeah, not amazing while it's happening, but it turns out to be. Yeah.
It was a nice little technique when we're talking about 7, and then she takes it from 7, 6, 5. Just nice
Oh
little
my
segue.
God, I loved that. And what do you think? I mean, I've seen a lot of scripts. You've seen a lot of scripts.
Mhm.
Was that in the script, do you think? Or because that's
No, I'm
not the
sure that was
sort of
I'm
thing.
sure that was written at the script level. Doesn't
Yeah,
sound
it would
doesn't sound
have
to
to
me.
be. One of the things about TV directing is it's not exactly film directing. You're not exactly it's a much more utilitarian role
Yeah,
in television than it is in movies. If it was a movie, I'd go, "Oh, well, that's the director right there."
right.
Because they're usually sitting in the editing booth too. But yeah, what a great team we have to give us a moment like that. I geek out for that stuff.
Well, again, just little moments like that throughout the episode and throughout the series just,
Mm,
make it so much fun and compelling to watch, and
yeah,
this episode was right at the top of the list, of course.
yeah, yeah.
So, during this time, I mean, here comes Jean-Luc, and well, I should mention first that during their little heart-to-heart that Riker suggested, "You know what, Jean-Luc, now might be the time to get to know your son a little bit because he may not be around much longer, any of us."
Yeah.
So he steals him away from Beverly in sickbay and takes him down to a recreation of 10th Forward, the LA 10th Forward on the holodeck. And I have to say, I'm not sure I entirely can buy the explanation of, well, we have this little bit of power just over here for the holodeck and so that
Like
he would have to go
a
to.
special battery just for the sex booth.
Yeah. I said,
That's weird.
you know, I mean,
That was
wouldn't a modern wellness room serve the same purpose? But nevertheless, they
big meditation studio. We know they had them. Beverly Crusher used to dance in them.
exactly. But you know what? If it got us to a point where we have Jack Crusher with John Luke in both the holographic 10 forward as well as spoiler, the real 10 forward some years earlier,
Yes.
I'll accept it. And at least one thing I like about this season, they try to, without it being too heavy handed, they try to explain away things. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing we didn't mention last time was that, Riker, he says, well, I hear the old guy's positronic, and Riker says, he's the same man he always was. They acknowledge it. It's done. It's gone.
Yeah. Right. Good point.
Same thing here. I mean, okay, a line of dialogue. We've said before, a line or two of dialogue can go so far, very far, I should say.
They do a killer one later.
Yeah. And if I forget that, please jump in. But
yeah, I'm going to write it down because I didn't have it in my notes originally.
So they're having their heart to heart, and it's really cool. John Luke at some point after that goes into the story of the dalliances of the first Jack Crusher and him on a shuttle where they're getting ready to go to a booty call. There's a tidbit there, which I'll mention later.
Good.
And I thought a very touching moment there, of course, was also, hey, Jack says, I thought it was kind of odd she named me after her first husband. Now, her first husband I thought was interesting, the reference.
I didn't catch that at all. First husband.
He said he named me after her first husband.
Oh.
But at no point did we hear that John Luke and Beverly were married.
Right.
So maybe there's more to the situation we haven't heard yet. Maybe there was a marriage and divorce. I don't know.
It's possible. Wow. That's something.
I mean, we got in the All Good Things alternate timeline, of course, but
yeah.
So we'll see if anything comes of that. But the touching part of that came to me when young Jack made that comment, and John Luke says, I would have named you Jack myself.
Yeah.
Because he was my very best friend.
And he was a big part of TNG. So that's great that really the specter of Jack Crusher was always present in TNG. So I like that they addressed that.
Well, I guess my fan/writer's mind occasionally comes into play. And I was thinking along those lines. Says, it's interesting she named him Jack.
Yeah.
And there you go. They read my mind and had a very nice bit of dialogue to explain that and to make it realistic and touching.
Absolutely.
So good deal there.
One of the things they're great at this season. Yeah.
Right. Well, so Riker, meanwhile, tells Seven, says, you know what? I can reinstate you, but let's keep you on the down low and let's send you out looking for that changeling. What do you say? So Seven agrees. And of course, who does she go to of all people? Captain Shaw.
What? What? When that first began, I was like, this is just writing. This is not how it would go. And as it advanced, I went, nope. This is a great scene. This was a great decision. I'm totally down with this.
Well, again, kind of reminiscent in my view of Captain Jellicoe having to go to Riker in Chain of Command when he says, you know what? This is the person I need despite our differences, despite everything else.
Wow. Great comparison. Tremendous comparison. Wow.
And that's the core of Star Trek, or one of the cores of Star Trek, in the sense that, you rise above whatever conflicts you have. There's that word again. There is conflict. There always will be. We are always going to be human. I don't care how deep into the 25th century you are.
Right.
But the ability to rise above and to be constructive and overcome it is what makes them our heroes.
Good point.
So good for Seven and good for Shaw, even though he's still kind of resigned. He's kind of withdrawn and checked out. But you know what? He's coming around, and he will come around, as we will see later in the episode.
Absolutely.
We predicted at the beginning that he was going to, slowly, realistically come around. And we find out, we might as well even get into it because it's about this time in the episode it happens anyway.
Yeah.
So John Luke and Jack are having a nice little chat, going over some fond memories there in fake 10 forward, as it were. And some other members of the crew have come to seek solace per the explanation of keeping the holodeck active during a crisis. Well, here comes Captain Shaw, and he comes to rain on that parade big time. Oh my goodness.
Wow. That scene. Oh my God. And well, okay, we can talk about this later.
Well, just moving on from there, I mean, basically, of course, I'm sure we both occur to us that we have a Benjamin Sisko moment there. Well, here's another person. I'm sure there's hundreds that resent Locutus, i.e., John Luke, for the 11,000 deaths at Wolf 359.
One of the biggest conflicts in Starfleet,
Yes.
history,
even to this point.
and certainly one of the biggest losses they ever suffered, and it should reverberate. I mean, comparatively speaking, when you and I were very young men in the 70s, it was the country seemed to want to move on from Vietnam as quickly as it could. And there was a huge backlash that like patriotic kids like us would see in our families, certainly in our towns and communities and in the media, that there were all of these Vietnam vets who were left behind. Not even necessarily physically left behind. The MIAs were over there, of course, but the guys who'd come back home and were not being taken care of and were not being, cared about or cared for. And so there's always going to be some PTSD from the guys who were in that conflict. And oh my gosh, Shaw's story is shattering. So yeah, it sends a huge level of seriousness through an already serious situation.
Well, of course, and we got a form of that we don't often see in Star Trek, and that is huge, almost crippling survivor's guilt. Literally being ordered onto the shuttle to live, where he knew other, 4/5 of the people that needed to, wanted to survive, of course, couldn't go.
Only
there
10,
wasn't room.
right?
Random survivor, and that has obviously haunted him and puts a little bit more weight on the resentment we saw in the very first episode of this season.
Absolutely. It explains everything, really, from Shaw. I mean, yeah, it explains everything. Yeah.
It really does. And so the jaded, but again, coming through in a pinch, we're going to see that very soon.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, Seven's on her hunt for the changeling. She goes into Fake Foster's quarters. Pretty luxurious quarters, I would say, for an ensign, but good for him.
I mean, some ships are pretty big, and you do get nice quarters out of them. It does happen.
A new wrinkle in her in Shaw's explanation of the changelings is that they can leave residue behind in their little bucket.
I never knew that, by the way.
I think that was, a little bit of a plot contrivance for our current situation. That's okay. I mean,
it's all right.
It doesn't contradict anything in the past, but it just makes me wonder that he did say occasionally. So eventually you think, well, are they eventually going to be whittled down to nothing if they keep shedding too much?
I mean, we shed skin cells. I mean, does maybe goo people do that? I don't know.
Well,
but
they do now. It's canon. Oh, who we got?
Stress-free K's with us.
Hey,
howdy, Captain John and Joe.
Howdy do you? So she finds the bucket. I did enjoy the again, a tidbit there. But I'll give a previews. I did enjoy the cannabis reference when we talked about the pot.
You got to find his pot. Is that a reference to cannabis? I wish.
Yeah. Sadly, no.
Oh, that's what it was. Sadly, no.
And I don't know. This may be the first ever reference to marijuana in Star Trek. If so, kudos.
First, that's a deep dive search. I'll have to take another time because I'm sure there's a lot of like, well, heading off to Eden, there was a reference to a lotus. Like, okay, but saying pot, yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the first time.
So she did locate the pot. She's on the way to a biometric lab to have it analyzed, but gosh darn it, here comes that pesky changeling again. This time taking the form of somebody else. And boy, when they're discovered, that they look like they're in pain. And then she shoots and The only thing I
Took
can
his
say about
arm
these,
off, though, I believe.
yeah, I mean, it looked pretty painful, and he got away to resurface once again, which we'll get to shortly.
Yeah.
Well, around this time, Bevy's making a pretty relevant discovery. Guys, boys, John, Luke, Jack, I know about this because I've had 2 kids, but these are contractions that we're experiencing, and that's what's happening. They're going to get faster, they're going to get more severe, and but hey, maybe we can make something of this.
Yeah. Yeah. We're swimming in amniotic fluid.
Yes.
She said, like, oh, yeah, okay. But that had been a big mystery. Why was there a biological electric charge coming at them? Contractions is, wow, that's smart.
That's
And only a
smart, and
doctor.
like I said, I never have a problem when admitting that my harebrained predictions don't come to fruition. At least this one lasted 1 day.
Yeah.
So it's not the prophets, it's not the wormhole aliens. Okay.
Hey, man. I was like, there's some benevolent force. Nope, just nature. Just
Yep.
nature. That's all it was.
Yep. You were much closer to the mark than I was, Captain John.
Ah.
Kudos to you, sir. So the plan now is, there is hope after all if we work together. And again, a bit of hyperbole here. There are certain words in the English language which I feel have gotten so overused, they've almost not meaningless, but diluted.
Yeah.
One of those words is amazing. We hear amazing, it's amazing all the time. The only one we hear in like TV, it seems like, let's do this together.
Mm.
Now, again, maybe my cynicism is cropping up there, but this episode and the story justify that concept.
Yeah.
Because it does require every single one of them with each with their specific skills and talents to bring it all together to make the plan work. And that's where the suspense kicks into high gear, because now we've got Shaw, the old dipshit from Chicago, who was a grease monkey, back on his ship, the USS Constance.
Oh, he was on the Constance. I was trying to remember what it was.
Yes, I just popped in my head from earlier, and he's down there, got his, just like getting underneath the 57, Chevy, he's got on his back.
That's so true. I didn't even notice that, but it's true. He's like in a pit crew or something.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so funny.
So even though he still has misgivings about the whole thing and his past and so forth, he's a good captain in the sense that, you know what? I got to get my hands dirty too. We all have to right now.
Right.
And who should walk in but fake Sydney? And I just thought it was like such a neat tie-in for Seven to reveal her.
Yeah.
By saying, "What's my name? Commander what? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Commander Handsome." Nope.
Did you see that coming? Because I swear I saw it coming. I knew someone was going to come and try to kill Shaw while he was working.
Mainly I did also because just before that on the bridge, they said, "Don't send anybody. We're on it." And then 2 seconds later, somebody's there.
She references that later, and that just totally flew over my head. But yeah, it did happen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
Good
anyway, this changeling's dead. Thank God. There's one down. Now, one thing I totally glossed over, and this is a huge part of the episode. So we now know that Vatic is herself a changeling.
Yep, I have issues.
And what a creepy way to send a message to your superior. I mean, cut off your hand and get some disembodied goo head talking to you, and
it basically uses your hand as like the media through which it is gross.
It's like
brutal.
It's like Play-Doh FaceTime or something. I mean, it's just bizarre.
You totally Captain Shaw'd that.
Yes.
and that's the compliment I give for when Shaw sits there and he's like, human goomans. Like he sort of like improvises with himself. Goo people, goobers.
The goo people, the goobers. But it does solidify, so to speak.
Yeah. Such a solid thing to say.
Yes. Yeah.
You're such a solid, Mr. Townsend.
Solid. It does solidify that Jack Crusher is the reason for what's happening. I mean, he is the top priority. Everything else is expendable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you need to dump your teleport, your teleport weapon, do it. Get in that
Right.
nebula and go get him.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
If we go in there, it's suicide. Well, then go in there. Like, yeah.
Well, more specifically, and that's what made it creepy, is not going in there will be suicide for you. Meaning you do it or die. And
Josh Postel's with us. Hey, Joshua.
hey, Joshua. I mean, and we got a little added nuance to Vatic. We haven't seen a lot of her.
No.
We know now she's a changeling, and we saw some fear.
Yes. Yeah.
So there, she's fearful. Yeah. Of course, as soon as she's off the grid with her superior, she's right back to being, cocky. But so there's it looks like there's lots of nuance to come, and you know what? The hunt is on once again down into the depths. So meanwhile, back on Titan, I mean they're getting ready for.
I got to throw this up from
Stress Free
K. Seems like Gumby was a precursor to the changelings, Goo in particular.
That's a great observation, Stress Free K.
You're no blockhead, Stress Free. You are 100% right on that one. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, not at all. And we want all the comments we can get from our great listeners.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so I mean they're getting real close to having maybe one, maybe two chances to capture that energy from those contractions, because those babies is coming. And as we learned in sitcoms all through the decades, they don't wait. When they're ready, they're ready. So we've got one, maybe two shots of capturing that so we can get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
Well, right in the nick of time, they are able to catch the energy from the very last contraction. Just in time for the good old Shrike to show up. And boy, don't you know that Payback's a bitch. When Riker gets that tractor beam, gets that asteroid, and just flings that sucker right at the Shrike.
That was so great. I loved that. And it was very Riker. It was very much something Riker would think of on the fly. He's an improviser. He's a jazz musician, folks. This is where he gets it from.
That's where he gets it from. But again, we've got everybody doing their thing, and it's all coalescing into a solution. That's the theme of this episode. No win scenario, BS. There's always hope, as Jean-Luc said at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's working. They managed to fling out of there as soon as they crippled the Shrike. It's down, but not out. We're not done with Vatic yet.
I'm sure we're not.
But they're hightailing it out of their warp speed to safety. The Titan is. Riker is able to send a real message to Deanna, offering, I think, mostly a resolution, but I think there's still a little bit more to come as far as their difficulties. I mean, one telephone call isn't going to solve all their problems in one shot. But hey, as Deanna said, I haven't heard you speak that eloquently and that pretty in a long time.
Which is funny because that was one of his superpowers back in the day.
Yes.
Look at his trying to teach Wesley Crusher how to flirt, where he's talking to Guinan, and Wesley's like, "Is this really going to help?" And Guinan's like, "Shut up, kid. Keep going."
Shut up, Wesley. We have one last flashback, which pays off the first two. That's why my patience was rewarded. In that, turns out that around the time that Jack turned 18, 5 years prior, that he did have an interest in meeting and knowing his father. But Jean-Luc, unknowingly said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Says, I never needed a family other than Starfleet. And in the present day on the bridge, they exchange that look, which tells you they are both remembering the same thing.
Yeah.
And
I've been thinking about that so much too. That's just kind of rung in my memory. That normally I would go, oh, that's a little cute, circle closing, but it is so central to their relationship. It's actually a huge moment.
Exactly. And, as a writer, I would have been torn about maybe not even torn. I might have ended the episode there. But
Yeah,
as I mentioned earlier, we did have a little coda where I said, "Oh, wait a minute, there's still something going on with the Jack. Still something happening in that guy's head."
right.
And the return of the red door opening wider, and the branches, and come find me.
So it's not related to the gravity well slash uterus that they were trapped in. It's a different thing. That kind of blew my mind because I had made assumptions that the gravity well was trying to communicate with them. It's something else.
It's
We
something else.
can't.
But one thing that they got right, and we'll give this one to Captain Shaw. He said, "Great job that your old friends are doing to my ship here.
Yeah.
Great view." So I guess they really did have a womb with a view. So.
Okay, I have been tackled. I have been picked up and dropped. I have been, I've had people knock into me as hard as they possibly could. Nothing has knocked the wind out of me like that pun.
Oh, wonderful. I hope Flobo sees this. I know how much he loves puns.
I literally had to relax and let the air come back into my lungs.
And Captain, that concludes my take on the beats. You have anything to add before we move on to other observations?
You know something? I do not. So I think it's time for us to get down and dirty. Okay, I'm not quite at the audio level that I want to be. Okay. All right. It's still a very new system, people. We're working on it.
Please don't change it. I love it as it is.
Let's get some of the observations out from the folks watching us.
Oh,
We've got
great.
Stress Free K, who says, I feel like Seven would have been more effective if reinstated, so she could have access to all the ship's systems. Yeah, that's a good observation. I mean, honestly, my personal feeling was it could go either way. Here's what I think we got out of that. Kay and Joe and Josh. I think what we got out of that is our first moment of like chemistry, like real, like, oh, I get you, between Riker and Seven. And that might be significant because as a fan, you're always going to wonder. I'm always going to wonder. Of all the people that we meet in all of the different Star Trek shows, who would have been a good crew if you put them together?
Mhm.
Jean-Luc Picard would not have liked serving next to James Kirk. They're two different guys.
Right.
It would not have worked. Would Riker have liked to work with Captain Sisko on DS9? Well, his doppelganger meets him, and they don't like each other at all. So Thomas Riker does not like him at all. And especially now when we're kind of in the remix period of all the past Treks, could kind of come together. Oh, come on, Postel. Josh Postel says Picard would have killed Kirk. By maybe talking him to death, sure. But yeah,
I'm sure it's a figurative prediction, not a literal one.
And Tiburon's with us. Richard
great.
Tiburon. I know nothing about Star Trek, but I want to say, hey, good luck on the episode, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much, Mario. So honestly, I like that we saw that chemistry, which I always think of as being funny anyway, because when did Riker ever not flirt with a woman? Him meeting Seven, I was like, oh, come on. He's got to get a little flirtatious. No, this is a different kind of Riker. He's kind of a broken down Riker. But he's basically like, do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying to you in between what I'm saying?
Wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You go undercover. You be a spy on your own ship. Yeah. Does that sound like something fun? And she, of course, is into it. And so I love that because here's the thing, Joe Townsell. You put this in my head. You gave me this invasive thought. which was there should be a series after Picard that kind of remixes together all of the Starfleet that we know. I think there should be. I would freaking love that. I would watch the hell out of that. The way I'm enjoying this season, I would enjoy that show. And if Gates wants to do more, if Frakes wants to do more, which I'm not sure he does, if Marina Sirtis is in it, oh hell, if any of the Data family, anybody that Brent Spiner wants to play, I will watch that show. I want to see that, especially since so many of them have become so much better at acting.
Well, absolutely. And I'll a slight contradiction to one thing you just said.
Yeah.
I've read reports that Frakes is keen to do as much more as possible after this.
Oh, well, that would be great. Oh,
And,
okay. That'd
I
be
mean,
tremendous.
I think it would be a great way, and we're kind of going off the track here, but it's a good segue for it. I think there was always talks. Why didn't they do a Star Trek anthology? Well, the simple reason is an anthology, as far as an episode to episode thing, would be very expensive.
Yeah.
New sets, new scenarios, whatever.
Exactly.
But this could be kind of a loose anthology within a structured part of Star Trek history.
Yeah.
A central location, the Titan or whatever.
Yeah.
But characters could come as go as the story justified it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and as we were talking about last night after the show, they're going to need something because they're losing some of their property this coming year.
We had a little discussion about the fact that Discovery announced that the 5th season is going to be the final season. And there's all kinds of controversies and rumors swirling around. And you got to wonder, what is the modern Star Trek? Strange New Worlds, if they're smart, that's the flagship. It's such a great Star Trek show. You can show that to anybody and they would know what good Star Trek is.
Exactly.
But what about the more modern shows? And Picard is the most modern. What about that? So, yeah,
I think we definitely need a continuation of some kind with these and other characters after Picard season 3, after the series is done. So again, we'll have to wait and see. We'll keep our nose to the news and see what comes up as far as rumor, innuendo, and out fact. Is we're gonna learn more as time goes on.
We may not get a lot of Patrick Stewart, but frankly, I'm kind of okay with that at this point.
Well, I mean, Patrick Stewart has said that I could continue in a movie or something. Well,
yeah.
Okay, but again, background character, something.
Yeah,
I don't want to relegate, demote anybody to mere cameo because that's just stunt casting at the end of the day. But
right,
if there's a reason to continue with Picard in some fashion, that's great.
Yeah.
But there's lots of potential here. I mean, again, the risk is making it too small of a universe if we start having everybody from every series interact freely.
Right.
But thus far, they've handled it well. I mean, there's a reason for people to be where they are and when.
They're introducing great characters, especially in this season of Picard. Great characters. So we know that'll be, we won't run short of good characters.
No, and I think we're due for a couple of surprises here and there.
I agree.
As far as ones that we haven't heard of or seen yet. And there's some are more likely than others, but again, maybe I'll save a thing there for our prediction section. Have a couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I did watch this one twice. A standard practice for John and me is to watch first for pleasure because we are ultimately fans after all.
Absolutely.
And then for purposes of our quaint little show here, we like to watch again for analysis and for notes. And interestingly, this is the first episode that I liked even better on the second viewing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of nuance I missed the first time. Now, I will share there is another reason for that, which is outside of the show itself. But woke up today about 8 o'clock and said, well, let me put on Picard, watch it for the first time. And it's not there. I go, wait a minute. We just had a problem where we couldn't get to our episode 3 until last night. Now is Paramount going to have a problem? I need to reboot my Fire Stick. So crisis averted.
Oh,
To
thank
get to
goodness.
update itself.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I
My
said, that can't be
problem
right.
my problem was on Paramount Plus, they normally have like that screen up top with the like, you want to watch this or this
Yeah,
or this or this. And that's usually my shortcut to get to Picard. And they
right.
didn't have it up there. And I was like, what? What? How are you not? How is it not your headline thing? Well, within a couple hours, it was. But I
Well,
had to, like a pilgrim, like somebody from the old times. I had to go search out Picard in order to watch the episode.
well, Mikey's. I mean, I actually went to the episode listing and saw there's only 3 episodes here. What gives?
Oh
But
my god!
anyway, a little bit of a heart stopper there for a moment. But I got
Reboot
to
your Fire Stick, folks. Reboot
reboot
your
you.
Fire Stick. That's
Yes,
what we've got.
the moral of this week's episode is that always never give up hope. Collect the energy from that amniotic fluid from the contractions, and keep your fire stick fresh and lively. Okay, there we go. So, but listen, I mean, we've got to again, as far as getting further into analysis and breakdown. I mean, strong performances all around. Everybody was
Yeah,
vital. The solution to the problem involved every single person. That to
yeah,
me was the strength of the episode, is that everyone was important. Now, the part where he calls upon Jack to call out the um, coordinates was
yeah.
a bit of a reach.
Yes,
There was
yes.
probably a dozen bridge officers who could have done it a little bit better,
Exactly. It's like
but it brought
let's.
him into the fold. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, in that chemistry, I mean,
yeah,
that's because they had to teach a lesson to Jack, and the lesson had to be that no man is an island. You are always
right.
better working with other people and finding your people to work with. And that was like, the lesson that Jack must learn, and that's how he learned it. So that's all right. It's corny, but it's all right.
Like I said, it's one of several instances, and not just this, but any other Star Trek or other high concept shows for that matter. A little bit of a reach, handled
Mhm.
well.
Yeah,
Sometimes these things aren't handled as well. You get, oh Lord, it's an eye rolling, groaning moment.
yeah,
That
yeah,
wasn't this. I mean, it was again, it brought the two men together, working together. And again, for once, the word together wasn't overly used. And I mean, we love all things Trek. That's why we're here.
absolutely.
But this is something we get a lot of on Discovery, probably to the point of overuse, in my opinion.
I was actually going to say I was surprised they did it because it's been done and done and done so
Right.
much on Discovery. And I don't even hate it
Yeah.
because it's kind of a Captain Pike thing too.
Yep. True.
So, it slops over to Strange New Worlds as well. But you're right. It's a Star Trek thing.
Mm.
So, you know, it's okay.
It's okay.
Shrug.
And again, as long as the payoff is worth it, then I'm down, for sure.
Well,
Trying
I
to make sure
have
I
a
don't miss any
problem.
important analyses here, but
Yeah.
it's but really the analysis tends to be a little bit more brief when the material is just that good. I mean, there's when you're nitpicking at the level we're nitpicking right now on some of the points I'm bringing up, at least
Yeah.
you got a fine episode of television here. You really do, because there aren't gaping plot holes. Everything makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yeah. I do have a big problem with this episode, but it's
Oh,
not that it doesn't make sense.
okay,
And so let me get that off my chest.
do it.
I agree with everything you've been
Mm,
saying.
mm,
I really do. The episode made me feel right, but the
mm.
one thing that did not make me feel right, and I don't know how much of a fit I'm going to throw here, but it might be a little bit of a fit.
Okay, I am intrigued.
Vedic. What do we know about Vedic? Oh, I accidentally put that up there. Oh, thanks, buddy.
It's a great
Uh,
comment worth repeating.
okay, Vedic, Captain
Mhm,
Vedic.
mhm,
We know that she is the marked woman,
mhm.
that she is some sort of mercenary or bounty hunter, or bounty hunter is what she said she was. And people have questioned that. Like, that seems like a lot of firepower for a
Right.
bounty hunter.
Mhm.
She smokes. She smokes, which is like one of the badass things you can do in space, like oxygen. breathable oxygen is so rare in a spaceship in the void of space, and you're just sitting there destroying it with your with you. And I don't get me wrong, I was a smoker. When we're talking pot, we are talking pot. When I'm talking pot, I don't mean what changeling sleeps in. However, everything we've been given to know about her, it doesn't make any sense that she is a changeling. Nothing she is or does is something a changeling would do. And since when do changelings have working lungs? They don't. Changelings shape themselves into humans. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they shape themselves into humans down to the molecular level. They don't, but maybe they do. Maybe these are such advanced changes. Odo couldn't even smile. And this one can smoke? It's madness. There is so much misdirection to a character that frankly didn't need to be misdirection. If she was hired by the changelings, if she was completely alive because of the changelings, that makes sense to me. Here's another thing that makes me so angry. So lead changeling that she's talking to says, go after them. And she says, but it's suicide. And he says, Joe, you got the line right. What?
Says it's suicide if you don't.
It's suicide if you don't. Okay. What do we know about changelings? They definitely consider themselves above human beings. They call us the solids. And what they do is they join a great link where they intermingle. And so they know each other and they love each other so much. And the one thing a changeling cannot stand is the death of a changeling. And yet this changeling is like, I'll kill you if you don't do it. That is freaking nuts. That is so not changeling. Well, they're terrorists, John. They're terrorists. Okay. They're terrorist changelings who will kill other changelings. Okay. You're taking me to the answer, but I effing hate it. This is not the changelings that we know. What made the other changelings evil was that they were on the scale of humans amoral. We are not part of their morality.
Right.
So the Dominion War made sense because they are supremacists. It's them above everyone else. And yet here they are threatening each other, trying to kill each other, forcing each other to cut their hands off so they can have a conversation. This is not changelings that I know of. And I kind of love changelings, so I kind of know a lot. Anyway, got that off my chest. What do you think?
I'm glad you did, because it brings two responses to my mind, if I may. I'm going to go on a limb here and call this a potential pet peeve, because one thing that Picard season 3 has been very strong at so far is that nothing is by accident and no inconsistencies go unexplained to a satisfactory explanation.
Okay.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate and then bring up one of my own potential pet peeves, which may in turn have its own explanation down the line. Yeah. I think you pretty much said it yourself, John. It's like, these aren't the changelings we know and love, quote unquote.
Right.
We know that they're a separate faction. We know that there's something different about them in terms of their motivation.
Yeah.
So maybe physically they're not quite changeling. A hybrid of some kind, perhaps.
Interesting.
We attributed the effects of reverting back to their gelatinous state as an improved special effect. Maybe again that's by design. Maybe that it looks different for a reason. And they don't look as healthy when they go down to goop form. as
Right.
they did back then.
Right. Yeah, these are a lot less durable than Odo, now that you mention it.
And
These
they're
changelings.
slower. I mean, there was no way you could pull a phaser on a changeling before.
Right.
That's sucker, you just whip it and knock that thing out of your hand.
Yeah, let me throw this up. K Stress-Free K says, since Vatic is a changeling, it seems like there might also be a good Odo-esque faction of the changelings that are seeking Jack's help, and those branches are links to the Great Links. Okay. Red
I think
Door.
at this point, that's a very valid, possible explanation.
I also thought this was hilarious from Stress-Free K. I thought maybe they were those creepy Suleimans from Enterprise that could climb walls, and yeah, I remember them because I think they could regrow limbs. Am I wrong about that?
Well, the only thing I remember, I mean, and just because we thrive on detail here,
Yeah,
those were the Suliban.
Suliban. Sorry,
And the only reason that's important is because they were a takeoff of at the time of the Taliban.
that's right. That's
Um,
right.
and they were able to just basically compress themselves down to as flat as a pancake type of thing. So
Oh
mere
yeah,
changing abilities. So you know what? There could be some
interesting.
credence to that too. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think we're dealing with typical changelings here as far as motivation and so forth. Now, as far as and that would maybe explain Vadic's ability to smoke. Who knows? Maybe the smoking itself is not what it appears to be. Maybe it's a way for her to breathe. I mean,
Interesting, because the only thing that I could imagine when I was arguing about this in my head last night watching it was, well, okay, let's say a changeling can do the shape of a human, but essentially the inside is just like a balloon. And
yeah,
so it's like you're pulling the smoke into the balloon and then you blow it out of the balloon. I mean, that's in essence how lungs work when you smoke anyway. So your inside's like one big lung. I don't know. It's just so dumb. Why have
it's dumb if
why
that's all it is. If it's all
yeah,
it appears to be that she's smoking to look menacing, yes,
yeah,
it's dumb. I agree.
yeah.
Again, I'm gonna hold out some faith for another episode or two that maybe we're gonna see there's a little bit more going on to some of these discrepancies that you bring up, and they are at this point absolutely discrepancies.
I hope I'm wrong, as always, with all of my complaints, all my negativity about Star Trek. Please, Star Trek, prove me wrong. Please
So
give me something to work with here.
so let's call that a potential pet peeve. Let me offer my own.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Borg references in this episode. Now, these were good. We
Yes.
liked hearing Shaw's Wolf 359 experience. That was very, very gut
Yeah.
wrenching and so forth. But think about it. We have that. We have 709, of course. We have
Mhm.
Shaw's reference, like these aren't the real Borg, not those idiots over on the new Stargazer that are guarding that wormhole. The real Borg are
You'll
still out
note
there.
you'll
You know,
notice that happened when that line happened when he was off camera, which
true.
makes me think that they did that later
Mhm.
after it was edited. They brought him in to say that line, which means they might have had more. Either they didn't address it or they did address it. It was much longer and they now needed to edit it down and cut it down. But as you had said earlier, Joe,
Mhm.
sometimes it takes one line just to solve a problem. And they
Exactly.
did do that.
They
So
did do
no
that.
shame in the game there.
And finally, I mean, we know that Laura had his connection to the Borg, although it was a separate faction. And that seems to be
Mhm.
the theme here. That's why I'm wondering about these changelings. How different are they apart from their motivation
Mhm.
than the Great Link?
Yeah.
I mean, when Worf last week asked the changeling, how long have you been gone from the Great Link? There was no answer. Maybe he's
Right.
never been in it. Maybe these
Okay.
are maybe these changelings are residue of a group that's never even been part of the link.
Folks, if you're ever doing a podcast, a live cast like this, make sure you get an excellent writer as your
Oh, thank
co-host, because really his talent can solve so many problems that your show will have. You've got to have a good writer. It doesn't have to be
well,
a
thank you,
man.
sir.
It doesn't have to be Joe Townsend, but if you're paying, go ahead, hire Joe
Oh,
Townsend.
please do. Yes. Um, But again, just to wrap up my potential pet peeve, I hope we're not going down a familiar road with the Borg yet again.
Yes,
Um,
yeah. I mean, too much Borg after season 2. I agree.
I think we're done with that for a while, but I really am starting, and I'm glad again you brought up your potential pet peeve because I think there's a lot more going on here, and I think all these visuals that seem stupid
Yeah,
are actually clues to what is actually going on here with this group of changing. So
yeah,
let's
yeah.
let's wait and see, as they say.
Episode 4, still plenty of room
Yep.
in the next 6 episodes for there to be explanations and going back and making sense of things. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Are we pretty much done with the down and dirty, do you think?
The one last point I make with the down and dirty,
Mm.
and I'm going to call it. We won't have this often, but I'm going to call it the worst line of the week
Uh,
embedded in one of the great passages of the week.
Oh, I want to hear this.
John Luke, during his description of the shuttle incident with his friend Jack Crusher,
Right.
10 effing grueling hours. This is the infamous improvised F word from Patrick Stewart.
Is it really?
He improvised it. In my opinion, should have been edited out. It just brought me out of the episode for that 2 seconds. Why?
That's amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing because when I saw that, I was like, why would they do that in Star Trek when he had already done that in the movie Logan as
Mhm.
Professor X, where he basically says, I'm effing 90 something years old. And he's got dementia at that point too.
Right.
It's and so it was a movie. It was a gritty movie. So all of that stuff kind of made sense. And still people were like, Professor X would not use the F word. Come on. And now you got Picard doing it. And yeah, I think you're right about it being a Patrick Stewart, like, look, I'm a effing badass. I'm going to say F sometimes. It's just because I'm an effing bad dude. And okay. I mean, I didn't love it. I have to agree. I did not love it. I did feel that it did go to showing how grueling it was, though, that you couldn't not say it to describe how grueling it was. I really did get that feeling that it was an awful experience. So I'll give
I
him
mean,
that.
and I'm sure that was Patrick Stewart's motivation improvising the line. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
But
I
as
think
a
it could have been just as
gatekeeper
effective with
myself.
a lesser curse word. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a prude, and I'm not. I mean, I use the word plenty.
No, Joe is not a prude, folks.
Far from it. It just didn't ring true in that particular line, in that particular, in my opinion. I go back to the
I
first season of
noticed it.
Discovery
Yeah.
when Tilly did the same thing. Oh, this is so
Yeah.
effing cool. And I go,
Yeah.
come on. You know?
Well,
So
what was
enough of
the
that. It's a minor glitch for me in terms of the overall greatness of this episode, but I had to point it out in our analysis.
was it Search for Spock where Christopher Lloyd as the evil Klingon is fighting Captain Kirk and Captain Kirk says, I am so sick of your shit and kicks him off a cliff or something. And I remember at the time being like, did he really have to say the S word? Did he
Well,
have to?
again, being a stickler for detail, and you can chastise me after the show if you want, John, but unfortunately that's not entirely accurate. He says, I am sick and tired of you. But he did say dipshit in Star Trek 4.
Wait a minute. He says shit, doesn't he?
No, I
Kirk?
don't believe so.
Gonna have to go in deep for that to look for that.
But speaking
Okay.
of details, how about some tidbits?
Let's do tidbits. Now you gotta shower me with tidbits because I have zero. I don't have any tidbits this week at all.
I got a few here we can delve into for sure.
Good.
Although it's so kind of you to call it Townsend's tidbits because we do both have them. But
Townsend started the tidbits, folks. You got to give credit where credit's due.
I'll take credit even when it's not due. Thank you very much. So here we go. Here's a few that struck my mind.
Yeah.
Um, During Picard's recollections and reminiscences to the cadets in the flashback,
Yeah.
he of course first referenced the story of Darmok.
Yes.
That was pretty much there. I mean, most people would pick that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was really cool that he also had some dealings with the Herodians, which apparently at some point found their way to the Alpha Quadrant.
I love how they couched that whole thing. Did you talk to Admiral Janeway?
Yes.
Like, I loved that. That was really cool.
And there's some, hey, you know what? That's a pretty largely untapped potential.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they could use the
agree.
Herodian in the Alpha Quadrant because stakes are bigger. And
Yeah.
again, very wisely, sparingly used. Don't overuse them if you do, but they definitely could resurface. I hope that's a foreshadowing,
Yeah.
not just a random reference. The one thing I think my crowning tidbit this week, I actually went back and looked to make sure. But Picard and Jack Crusher, his buddy,
Yeah.
found some kind of loose women there on Argalius 4, which coincidentally was the planet in the episode original series Wolf in the Fold, where they had to battle Jack the Ripper.
Red Jack.
Red Jack,
Oh
yes.
my God, that's amazing.
So 100
Yeah,
plus
there were
years
some pretty
later, they're
women
still
on
pretty
that
loose and carefree down there, even though
Oh,
Jack is
yeah.
long gone. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, good catch. There's also a reference, if I this is just coming to me,
yeah.
to Metalis 4.
Oh yeah.
And as you remember, when we were first discussing executive producer Terry Metalis, who's very much an active part of why this is such a good show right now, Picard. So Metalis 4, as we had been talking, the hive of villainy up to this point has been Metalis Prime. So I'm like, not only did the guy name a planet after himself, he named a system after himself, a star system or a solar system. Oh my God. And of course, they're the worst planets.
Well, I mean, but doesn't the number refer to the planet?
Well, I assume that Metalis Prime is a planet. And
What
then
is, but
there's
Metalis 4, I mean, I'm just wondering if Metalis 4 and Metalis Prime are the same place.
I don't know, man.
I'm just gonna choose to imagine that they are until I'm told otherwise, and I'll tell you why. More than being great catch, by the way, that was a very nice tidbit. But Jack was there.
Yeah.
Is there a connection between him and what's happening with Worf and Rafi?
That's a very good point. That is a very good point. We do need something to tie that together, and we do need to know why he is so important to this terrorist changeling cell. So yeah, good. That's a good bookmark to put.
I think
put
so.
in
I
this
mean,
book.
maybe as soon as the next episode, we'll see that connection start to come into play.
That works for me. I like that a lot. Get any other tidbits there, pal?
One that I think most people would notice. I'm sure you did too, but have to mention it. Captain Shaw's pad with the information about the changeling bucket with a nice little picture of Odo beneath it. Just for
Very cute.
just for reference.
And a picture of his bucket.
I enjoy
the
that.
big picture was his bucket. I love that. One of my favorite characters from Deep Space Nine, that bucket.
It's too bad we'll never see Odo again, at least in played by the original actor. So great thanks for the late Rene Auberginois.
Oh, just a great actor. I loved him so much in everything he did. Big fan of this.
The late great Ensign Foster, as one of his many decorations in his luxurious quarters, is a Vulcan Kalto, which is a little like Vulcan Jenga puzzle that we saw on Voyager a few times.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. With those sticks that form a ball,
Yes. Oh, yes. I saw that little thing, and I wondered what that was. My first assumption was that that was actually a changeling.
Oh, that could have been very real. Because, one thing we should note also, it goes back to our analysis for just a moment, but we have to acknowledge that Odo is never quite as good as other changelings in mimicking humans, obviously.
Oh, very good point. Because he grew up on his own.
Exactly. Did not knowing who he was for the longest time. So
among the
again,
solids.
could be more explanation to come as far as what's going on with this particular group of changelings.
However, the female changeling that he does meet during the Dominion War looks exactly like him. So in terms of, her face, no eyebrows, flat
Right.
nose, no nostrils, like, no lips. Like, now did she do that because he'd be more comfortable talking to someone who looked exactly like him? I can't. No, she does some very interesting shapes. No, that's okay. I'm wrong because
I
there's
think I
the
think when a
episode.
changeling needs to take a humanoid form to interact with humanoids,
Yeah,
they probably prefer to keep themselves as featureless as possible. It's just that Odo never learned to mimic exactly a real
right,
person.
right.
So
Is it not the female changeling who's in that episode where she disguises herself as Kira Nerys, who's dying? She's into like a calcified, this calcified rock thing is killing her.
I'm not
Do
sure.
you
I think
remember
that
that one?
predates the changelings, as we came to know them later. But again, a rewatch would be
Yeah,
in order for me to know for sure. But could
yeah,
very well
yeah.
be.
I'm kind of thrashing around there. Anything else you got, my friend?
Well, we have to mention, of course, that and of course, I'm glad they did this because I would have thought, well, come on, now you're plagiarizing yourselves, but it worked. Um, one word reference from Picard. Yeah, just like at Farpoint. At that time
Oh,
we had the space jellyfish. Now we have the space squid. But it's kind of the same thing. We got these spacebound creatures that are doing their thing, giving birth and all that
yes,
good stuff.
yes,
So, and
yeah.
I guess I'll wrap up my tidbits this week. It's just I really enjoyed two lines in the episode at the end. Beverly saying a little bit corny, but you know, to seek out new life. And Riker following up
Yes.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's boldly get the hell out of here. You know?
That's very inside baseball right there, but still very, very entertaining. Here's a couple of tidbits I picked up from Memory Alpha.
Oh, cool.
Liam Shaw has revealed, of course, that he was in the Battle of 359. He also reveals that he's from Chicago, Illinois, and the actor
Mm-hmm.
who plays Shaw, Todd Stashwick, is from Chicago.
Oh, makes
Great
sense.
Chicago accent, and lots of good actors are from Chicago. What else did I have there? Yeah, when Picard recalls Farpoint, which of course is the pilot episode of
Mm-hmm.
TNG, The Next
Mm-hmm.
Generation.
Right.
Um, uh, the star date given in the Admiral's log is 78183.10. That's roughly 37 years after TNG encounter at Farpoint. 37 years. I don't know. Is it significant? I don't know.
Well, if it isn't today, it could be next week.
Yeah.
And
That's true. That's
and I'm
true.
pretty sure I didn't have time to research this, so I'll do it as we have potential pet peeves. This is a potential tidbit. How's that? But the star
Yes.
date that Shaw gave for the Wolf 359 battle, I
Yeah.
believe was the exact same star date that Riker took command of the Enterprise.
Wow. That'd be cool. If that was a matchup there, that'd be very cool.
So it certainly fits in the time
I
frame.
I'm actually because I don't have I don't have a segment for gripes or whatever. I do have this, and I'm going to do a tidbit that goes into this section, and that would be going just a little slow here. MVPs, your most valuable players of the week. This is so sportsy, isn't it? I don't
It's
even like
great.
sports. How did I manage to do that? Mr. Townsend, your MVP for this week, please.
Boy, another tough call. I mean, as you recall last night, I had that same difficult decision to make. I landed on Worf for those reasons. And again, I hope I may be in agreement. I don't know if you'll go for 4 in a row, but I've got to give it to Riker this week. I mean, it's
Good
just
Riker week.
a good Riker week.
Yeah.
I mean, he again. I almost went with John Luke. I mean, there's a lot going on there too, but a lot of it was kind of saved. Yeah, stress-free. Kay points out he's a much better actor now, and that's a huge part of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
Frakes is a much better actor. Absolutely.
There was just so much with Riker this week that just stood out. So I'm gonna have to go with him. Once again, what do you think, John?
I am finally from me. I am gonna go. It's Captain Liam Shaw.
I came real close.
Yeah, right? Because this was
Yeah.
a good Shaw episode.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of love for this character now. They really managed to, as I say, close the circle for me. Why has he been such a dick? He knows he's a dick. He literally says, I'm a dick. He knows that. Why? And it's because of everything he went through.
Right.
When, as Joe told us in the breakdown, he has survivor's guilt. He was a mechanic on a ship, and he was one of the people sort of randomly chosen to survive in the lifeboat, the only rescue pod they had, and everyone else on his ship, the Constance, died. And that is brutal. We find that out in a scene where he sits and he says, I'm probably on too much pain pills right now. The doctor probably gave me too much of a prescription, and I probably should shut up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you this story. And he tells his story. Now, here's the tidbit part for me. I am going to go over, as I do now and again. Okay, so this is share screen. And I am going to just show just a little bit of this scene, and I wonder if you know that it's coming up, Joe.
Okay, I'm
from one of the most successful movies ever released. Absolute legendary movie. And Captain Liam Shaw, telling us his survival story from the Battle of Wolf 359 reminds me so much of where are you? Okay. Reminds me so much of this scene from Jaws. And we get...
The island of Tinian Delady just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. 1,100 men went into the water. The vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Tiger. 13-footer. You know that when you're in the water, Chief. You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret. No distress signal had been sent.
Okay, I would feel bad if we watched the whole thing because it's long. But what is that actor's name, Joe Townsell?
Oh my goodness. Well,
if you don't remember,
Shaw,
that's
Robert
Shaw.
Yes,
Robert Shaw, Captain Liam Shaw. And he tells us this brutal story. 11,000 were killed at Wolf 359. I think there are parallels there. I think it's done on purpose, and it's freaking beautiful.
I agree, and I'm gonna give you a well-deserved round of applause. I would dub that the tidbit of the week.
Thank you very much, sir. And I encourage everyone to watch both of those speeches again, because they are... Oh my God, I'm getting emotional on PICARDEST. These are two of the best monologues I have ever seen or heard. Because all the guilt, but I'm trying to not be affected by it. Both actors are giving you that, and both are tremendous actors. I'm just blown away by perhaps that. And I have to say, I don't blame any writer or director or producer, executive producer in Star Trek. I don't blame any of them if this is a tribute to Robert Shaw's performance in Jaws, especially of this monologue. If it's true, God bless you. I think it honors this tremendous performance. It also shows us who Shaw really is, because he's still that grease monkey. He's still that guy who didn't think that it was possibly right, that it could possibly be true that he was being saved over all these officers, all these other people serving in Starfleet.
Well,
So,
what would have made this season far weaker is if Shaw stayed the same person he was in the first episode.
Agreed.
If we had just been given a one-dimensional character that didn't have additional layers come about and show us who he really is,
right,
would have been a waste. Would have just been a means of getting Riker in the captain's chair. Ho hum.
If there were not real solid human being reasons behind why he is so much of an a-hole and he is so much of why he hates Picard so much, these are real human motivations, and he is a real person. He's good plus bad. He's a jerk plus he knows he's a jerk. Like it's great television what they have made with him.
Well, I mean, and again, looking forward to the remaining 6 episodes for sure, but look at the characters we've gotten in Jack Crusher and Liam Shaw. And we were talking earlier about we don't want to gloss over, and it's like when you go on vacation and you're like on day 1 of 2 weeks and you say, oh man, I'm going to be so sad when it's over. Well, let's not go there yet with this. We're not even halfway done yet, not quite. But looking at it a little bit, people were saying, wouldn't it be great if they had like a 7 of 9 spinoff and maybe she's the captain? And you know what? That would be really interesting and cool. But I would be really down for a Titan show with Shaw and Seven in their current roles.
Wow. I mean, this is a good crew too, the bridge crew of Titan. I'm really developing a huge love for them as well.
Well, they're very, I mean, I don't know all the names except for LaForge, but
yeah,
I'm going to go out there and again, drawing comparisons, but how long did it take for us to even recognize the differences physically between the bridge crew on Discovery? It took a while.
It really did.
Underwritten and underutilized. Yeah. Here, everyone, again, just like this episode proved, everyone has a purpose and they all do their thing to have a unified whole. And I have new appreciation just for the little bit we saw of the Bajoran navigator.
Yes,
I do. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of the bald Vulcan lady at first, but hey,
I was like, wait, you've got a Vulcan and a Deltan? That's weird. Why would you do both?
No, maybe half and half. Who knows? But
ooh, sexy.
Yeah, I mean, Deltans are known for this type of thing. Vulcans too, every 7 years.
That's and Deltans would do it. Deltan would definitely 7-year window coming up.
So there is potential there for a straight continuation / spinoff, or again, maybe a combination of characters in different scenarios. But what can I say? I mean, wrapping up my thoughts on the episode, it was top notch, and I hear continuously we have just seen 2 things. The second part of a more or less a 2-parter.
Yeah.
But I also think we saw the first of a really knockout trilogy too. I've heard that 5 and 6 are just off the charts.
Yeah, that's the thing. What we have heard is that it gets better and better. We are pretty much at the as we were saying last night, we're pretty much at the beginning of a new trilogy of episodes, and if they can knock me out and surprise me in episode 3, episode 2, episode 4, I know these people are taking me on a great ride. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this season.
Me too. And like I said, I was underwhelmed when I saw that first flashback. Oh boy. but you know what? It paid off in spades, and
Yeah.
I got to admire that because I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big one for flashbacks. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way that these have all gotten us forward. These have all stepped us forward into these very interesting characters and their very interesting stories. And that's hard to do. Every show thinks they're doing that and they fail. So when it happens, you got to give some love to the creators. So Terry Metalis, you can put as many planets as you want in the Metalis system.
Absolutely.
It's cool with me. You're an okay Joe.
And from this okay Joe, I emulate my Captain's evaluation there.
Oh my
Go for it,
God,
Terry.
a new character, okay Joe. I'm already picturing his cartoon adventures. And they're already better than Prodigy.
Do we have any predictions, Captain?
Prediction. Oh, that's right. That's right. Did I forget to do? Oh, did I forget to do that? Yes, I did. Okay, here we go. Oh, thank you for mentioning that, Joe. I forgot I even had this because I mislabeled it. Okay, my predictions. I have no predictions.
Okay, well, I don't have much. I mean,
good.
We did get a lot wrapped up with a nice bow
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah.
Again, so much so that we felt the need to advance one step further what's going on with Jack and the hallucinations and the visions. My predictions, if any, are going to be pretty indisputable. I'm sure we're going to get at least one of the characters we haven't seen yet next week. We'll probably end up. I think we're going to end up bringing Worf and Rafi back onto the Titan.
Yeah.
To get those two storylines converging.
Yeah.
We saw Troy at the end of this episode, so maybe she's next to come aboard.
Maybe.
Geordi maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
And as far as the overall story arc, you know what? I'm not going to predict conspiracy bugs. I'm not going to predict prophets and wormhole aliens this time. But something big's afoot. Moriarty, the game's afoot.
Yeah.
And
that shoe has to drop somehow at some point. Yeah.
It has to drop at some point. I think you have a great prediction last night of the big theft being the Moriarty box. I think Lore's in there too. Pretty vague on my part this time, but you know what? These are things that are going to be hitting us hard and fast real soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm the kind of person who I stopped watching Law and Order when I could look at the clock and predict what's going to happen next. Like in Law and Order, if they arrest somebody in the first 15 minutes, that's not the person who did it.
Right.
If we get to the end of the cop thing and they have given it to the lawyers and the lawyers aren't happy, they're going to kick it back to the cops. So that always happens about like 35 minutes after, into the episode. If somebody says something dramatic on the stand, but it's not in the last 10 minutes of the episode, there's more to this case. So knowing how stories work on television like that, knowing that we in episode 4 have identified our big bads as someone different from Vadic, someone higher, someone above Vadic. But this is happening in episode 4. This cannot be the final form of our.
Well, and you bring up a good point as far as the format itself. I mean, this being one of the advantages, there's lots of disadvantages, but one good thing about the serialized format is that we do get non-traditional lengths of episodes. They don't follow a certain structure.
Yeah,
week to week.
We learned
so it
that
makes it much less predictable.
Yeah, season 2 was so unpredictable. And it was like one wacky action movie slamming into another one, which is okay because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're very right about that. We've seen that. So yeah, actually, I do kind of have a prediction, and I think there's going to be someone who's manipulating this domestic terrorist cell of changelings, and I think Vadic is going to be the person who finds out. So I think she might have a little hero's journey of her own.
That's a
I'm
bold
hoping.
prediction.
I'm hoping, because
Well,
so far nothing makes sense.
Well, nothing makes sense. Plus, we what we've seen is fairly. I mean, for what was promoted as being the big baddie, as it
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
we've seen very little of her.
Yes.
I mean, this
Yeah.
week, just her interaction with her superior was the first new character arc we've seen since the first week.
Good point.
So
Good
she
point.
could go anywhere from here.
And you got Amanda Plummer, who
Yes.
is just absolutely eating it up and spitting it out. I freaking love her acting so much. It is so not what you expect it to be. It's so much like a tweaking of the nose
Sure.
of, oh, I know what she's going to do next. No, you don't. You do not. I don't. No one does. So I'm not sure Amanda Plummer does. And that's another thing a great actor can do, which is, I kind of threw some randomness into my character to see how that would work. It's very much a Christopher Walken move. Joe, are we there? Are we at the end of this episode?
You know what? As always, we could dive deeper, but I think we've covered all the beats and the nitpicks and the great things and the few not so great things. I think we're there.
I love doing this show with you. You know that. I never make
Oh.
that a secret. I cannot believe, however, that you and I, who have done this a while, who are pretty good at this, we watch a show that without commercials would be 40 to 45 minutes.
More or less.
And talking about it takes twice as long. How does that work? But we love what we're doing. That's how it works.
Well, John, I mean, right back at you, my friend. I mean, I love doing it with you. We have a great time dissecting these shows, and you know what? I hope it's as fun for the people that watch us. I think it must be. Even Mario doesn't even watch Star Trek. He says, "Hey, you guys are doing great." So I love that, and love all of you guys out there too.
Part.
So
that's the best part.
Let's keep
really
it going. We got 6 more to go with this, and so much has happened already. I think we've seen more in 4 episodes of season 3 we saw in all 10 episodes of season 2.
I swear to you, you're right about that. Oh my gosh. And that's I have to guess that is the bridging job that Terry Matalas had to do from the end of the first season, which is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine when you look at it. It is what it is. But then he had to transition out of that. And you'll notice he retired some characters, he killed off 1 or 2 characters. And now here we are deep in where the fans want to be. Tell us more about what happened after the end of The Next Generation. And he's answering that. He's bringing us that. So honestly, I don't know which character is going to get a show next, but I really would love to know that Terry Matalas is going to get a show next.
I think if they have half a brain over Paramount Plus and Alex Kurtzman and specifically, they need to let Matalas do more.
You got to throw that voice in the mix. He is just too good. He is just too good at this. Stress Free K says, thanks, y'all. Thank you so much, K, for being with us. Thanks so much. And hey, if you're considering going anywhere on the internet, well, I think you should go to joetownsell.com at the very least. Go see this gorgeous website that Joe himself has put together, because he's an artist on so many levels. You just go check out it. I just love visiting your page, Joe.
Thank you so much, John. And I thank you for letting me know that you're going to be receiving copies of the books to enjoy, and I look forward to signing this for you at our first opportunity. And I encourage everyone out there to check it out. All of our great webcasts are linked there, and my books, new ones coming all the time. So please, it's an active site. It doesn't lay dormant for any length of time. Please check
Joe,
it out.
I don't want to put you out on a limb here. And I'm sorry if I am. If someone orders your books, now I ordered them through Amazon, but if someone orders them through your website, is it possible to get them signed by you? Do you physically have the books? Oh, you don't have the books. Okay.
I don't have it. Well, I have, of course, copies of my own.
Yeah.
I don't have a system in place for people
Yeah.
to have that done as far as ordering it. But you know what? It's a great idea, and let me work on that. And next time we talk, I'll be able to tell you something about that. How's that?
Let me just say to the potential purchaser of anything Joe Townsell, if you do get in touch with Joe, he will get in touch with you back. He is a good man. He's got a little time in his day where he can do that. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. And right on the website, there is a way to contact me. I don't mind telling you the email address is joe@joetownsell.com. Just jot that down if you want to right now. If you don't remember it, go to the website, go to the contact tab. Same difference, same email address there.
You can also get in touch with Joe through me. So
Yes.
the Starbase 80 page on Facebook, feel free if you're coming to us through YouTube to contact us there. I'm hello John Weber at Gmail. If you ever want to drop anything at the old Johnny, I give that address to everybody. So so I may be having to comb through emails from Cube Pillow in order to find your email, but I will do it. I know. Why did I give them my email address? I don't know. It looked like a good pillow. Folks, that is, let's see, I should do this like that. And okay, let's pretend I did this right. That is the show. Oh my gosh. Coming up on an hour and 40 minutes here. Holy cow.
That's the time flies as they're having fun, as they say.
It does indeed.
And we do.
And Joe, we are going to be back here 2 p.m. on Pacific Coast time, your mountain time.
Well, not next week. I'm with you.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The time zones finally align. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So 2 p.m. our time next week, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. It's always a great time wherever you are. So I hope you get in touch with us, and I hope you're with us next week. Thank you very much. Live long and prosper, my friends.
Live long and prosper. Kapla.
Kapla!